Hello and welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be talking about two hands I played at the recent UKIPT tournament series. There was a 2200 High Roller and 1100 main event. In the first hand I'm going to talk about, I got absolutely put in the bin and I thought it'd be fun just to explore if I could have done anything different. And the other hand was kind of rogue, a bit of more of a street poker hand, so I thought it'd be quite fun to talk about. So here I've pulled up Odin. The situation is I've raised under the gun with pocket jacks. The big blind has defended, playing about 50 big blinds effective. It comes 5-5-3 rainbow. This is our range here. This is how we're supposed to operate on this board, mainly betting with most stuff. If you want a range bet here, I think that would be fine against most opponents, throwing some checks sometimes with hands like aces, some hands like good king highs, some ace highs and stuff. I decided to bet a third with jacks, as you should do pretty much always. Nice and easy so far, and he goes for the raise. So there's only one raise size here. I think it's close enough to what he made it, so that's fine. Now, what do we do with jacks? So we've c-bet a third, we've been raised. I think the default here for most people is to call, but as you can see here, jacks actually favors the free bet in position. This is because our opponent is supposed to raise this board a lot. He has much more 5x, he has loads of offsuit 5s, he has pretty much every suited 5 once he defends big blind versus under the gun. As we just spoke about, we want to see about this board a lot, so there's a lot of auto folds it's going to generate with the check raise, and pocket jacks is actually one of the strongest hands we can have. He shouldn't really have aces, kings, queens, although we can debate whether he does have them in reality at any frequency. Maybe he does, but ace 5 suited, pocket 5s, yeah, we've got those. We don't have pocket 3s, so aces, queens, kings, and then jacks, like we're really high up in our range, and jacks is kind of vulnerable. So some of the bluffs you might want to take here have a lot of equity, like ace 4 and ace 2, or maybe a hand like 2 overs or king 4 suited might be a good check raise bluff from him. So what we actually want to do here with jacks a lot of the time, which is what I did do, is free bet. I actually chose a smaller size than the size that's chosen here, but in reality when 1500, he made it 5k, I made it 9k. So that actually expands my flop free betting range, so I can have more hands there. It still puts him in a difficult spot as well. If he's got a 3, if he's got a draw, whatever, he's kind of getting the price. If he's got a 5, does he want to announce himself by putting in the 4 bet? Probably not, even though he's out of position. So I think it's a pretty clean way to play the hand, because now I can still bet the turn or check the turn, or I can still go for 2 more streets if I feel like that's what I can get. I still get loads of value from all of his free X and his overpairs, etc. So I think it's a nice way to play the hand. I go for the free bet. He is supposed to go all in now with 9s, 10s and jacks himself, but I don't think we're going to see that in reality. I don't think we're going to see this all in from ace 2, ace 3, ace 4 suited ever. I do think sometimes people are going to put in the 4 bet with a 5 sometimes, or like pocket 3s, but mostly at the stack to pot ratio, we're just going to see calls from good hands and okay hands. That's what he does. He goes for the call. So far so good. And now we get a very, very interesting turn, which is the rainbow 5. And he's supposed to check with essentially range, as he does. And now, what do we want to do? Well, we do want to bet. The only size it's given here is 33%. This might be where I made a mistake. So the pot in my case is 24,400, and I'm the effective stack with about 30,000. My thought in game was, I'm so far ahead with all of my overpairs because he only has 2 outs. If he has 3-4, if he has 3-6, 2-3, if he has pocket 4s, through to pocket 10s, he's got 2 outs. I'm so far ahead. I just don't want him to fold. And if he has a straight draw, he's completely dead. If he has 6-4, 4-2, 6-7, all of these hands are now drawing dead against my jacks. I thought that was a reason to bet really small. I mean, it's only given the solver one size here, so I don't want to say it's never an option, but I think it makes sense. If I have the ace 5 suited too, which is probably the only 5 I can have, only 1 combo left, or like pocket aces, I think it makes sense to bet small. I don't think I want to bet too big. I probably bet too small in reality. I bet 3,500 into a pot of 22.5k, so I bet close to 15% pot, because that still lets me jam the river if I want to, or kind of do what I want. And I thought it put his range in jail. That was the size I chose. You can see jacks is a pure bet on the turn, as I expected. It's vulnerable overpair, but it's a really good hand. So let's see, when we bet a third, how he's supposed to respond. It probably only gives him an all-in size. Yeah, so he just goes all in if he's got a 5 most of the time, and he calls with a lot of stuff, and he does some random bluffing that I'm probably not seeing in reality. You can see in the solver world, this hand it's kind of hard to talk about because there's all these hands that we probably don't see. Like, is he going to have king queen off? Is he going to have ace jack off? Is he going to have some of these 3x hands? Is he going to always check raise like some of these straight draws and stuff? It's really hard to say. When we're in a free bet node, it's almost like the solver, you can kind of throw this out the window what the solver says to a certain extent, unless we expect we're both playing solver strategies, which I don't expect we are. So I went for the 3,500 bet, 15% par, and he now check raises to 11,500 when I'm only playing 30k effective, and it did throw me, to be honest. I thought, does he want to check raise for value with a worse hand? When I bet really small, it's plausible, but I wasn't buying it. I wasn't buying that he would do this with pocket tens, because, I mean, I might be wrong there, but it just seems like a hand that wants to be a bit more defensive, like let me bluff if I'm bluffing, and doesn't do that much with the raise, because well, I mean, look, I'm in a really tough spot with jacks, so it doesn't feel like a good raise with tens in reality. Maybe in Solver World, it's like here, it's pure jamming versus the third bet. I think ranges are a lot different in reality. I just think it would be more intuitive for him to call with tens there. But if he could still have like aces, kings, maybe queens pre, they might want to go in for the check raise and just try get the lot in. Definitely aces and kings. Now, he's probably supposed to free bet them pre, but I think big blind versus under the gun, a lot of people don't. Then there's all the 5x, and obviously he has a lot of offsuit 5x because so he might have like 5-7 and 7-5 offsuit, 5-4 offsuit. He definitely will have every suited 5. So there's a lot of combos of quads, and I think they would want to raise at least when I bet so small, because he doesn't want me to just check back. He doesn't want to miss some value. So I think it makes sense for them to go for it. So then it's just, what is a good bluff? Well, I thought the best bluff would have the ace that's not the suit of the 5, because if ace 5 suited is my only combo of quads, then in this case the spade, club and diamond are on the board. He wants the ace of hearts in his hand. So ace of hearts 4, ace of hearts 2. I thought they would be really good bluffs that people would probably find. It's quite intuitive. But then 6-4, I mean, it's just, I mean, maybe I open 6-5 suited under the gun when I'm like deeper with some people, so maybe having the 6 of hearts could be good. So like 6-4 with a 6 of hearts, 6-4 of hearts himself, 6-7, maybe they would get chosen sometimes. But there's just so many combos of quads, and it's hard to find a bluff in this line when it looks like I've got a full house a lot, and it's hard to make someone fold a full house. I went in a lot of circles, and I decided to say, you know what, if you bluff me here, you deserve the hand, and I folded. And he showed me 3-4 suited, so he did bluff me. So, yeah, you know, sometimes when people bluff you in these ways, I think like it's such a specific spot. I'm not going to be in this spot again, and if I am, it's all the dynamics are always different. I didn't necessarily think this guy would have bluffed in this spot. I was wrong, and I lost the pot as a result. But I mean, you could argue that I should just call turn to fold river, or I should call turn to never fold, and like do all this other stuff, but I just came to the conclusion in game he wasn't bluffing enough, and I was wrong. And you know, that's just poker sometimes. So the second hand I wanted to talk about was kind of a more, I guess that one was pretty rogue, but this one's really rogue. So I opened under the gun to just over a min raise with ace queen offsuit. I'm quite deep with a lot of people on the table, but with the effective stack in this part, it's just 35 big blinds. The guy in the low jack is a guy called Oliver Price, good UK reg. Free bets the 6.6 big blinds, and it folds back to me under the gun with my ace queen offsuit, and it's a pure call, as you can see here. It doesn't really make sense to call in because he's just going to snap with ace king and good hands, whereas I dominate some bluffs if I call, so it's just too much to go with in these positions, so I call. We get the king of spades, 9 of diamonds, 4 of spades flop, and I have the ace of spades in my hand, so I have nothing and a backdoor flush draw. Pretty reasonable flop. I mean, still way ahead or way behind. And now if we look at his range when he gets to the flop, we already might disagree with some of this, because he might not have ace 10 off, he might have ace 7 suited, he might have queen 9 suited, he might not have ace jack suited. So already, like pocket 7s, people call this more often. Maybe he calls with 6s pre, maybe 3 bets with 6s. Like it, all of this is kind of conjecture. I think we can always say, yeah, he's got queens plus ace king, and then sporadically around the rest of the hands he has. Sometimes some people would flat ace king more than this, some people would just fold ace jack. But he goes for the small c bet of about around quarter pot, 3.9 big blinds is close enough here. And then it's back to me with the ace queen, and you can see ace queen is actually mainly folding. Without a spade, we just have an easy fold. With the queen of spades, we have a really close, we make a really small amount by calling. And with the ace of spades, it's kind of similar story. We make a small amount with the call. This is the combo I had, ace of spades, queen of diamonds. It actually has the highest EV as a call, but it makes a small amount with a raise too. It kind of doesn't mind, which I think is reasonable, but I think call is just the standard play, so I call. And now this is where the hand gets a little bit rogue. So the turn's the 9 of hearts, and I actually haven't looked at what Solver says here, so I might be way off. Okay. Interesting, yes. So My thought on this turn was, once the 9 hits, and I've opened under the gun, called the free bet, and then check called the flop, I just have way more 9x, and I still have some traps, so I still have aces in my range. I still have, I have the most 9s because I have 10-9 suited, I have 9-8 suited, I have king-9 suited, I have ace-9 suited, and I have like loads of, I'm just stronger generally because I've called the flop, and he's probably betting with his whole range. So I want to lead this turn sometimes, and I thought ace-9 of spades is, ace-9 of spades is probably one that he would find a free bet with, and I'd block that. King-queen suited or king-queen offsuit might find a free bet, I'd block that. So I thought my hand has good properties. I don't really want to check call with my hand, but maybe that is better even on the 9 turn because I'm still ahead of all the bluffs. But I decided that I could lead this card a lot, and I'm pleasantly surprised to see that the solver is leading here a lot as well. I thought it makes a lot of sense to lead, especially when I've got a 9. I don't need to lead very big as well. It looks like it's choosing a mixture of sizes. It's choosing between about 40% pot and a really small, like 15% pot. I chose a really small size. I led 4.2 into 25.6, which is 4.2 is 3.5 big blinds. It's not worth as much EV as a check, but it likes to do it sometimes. So I feel better about this because I thought it might have been me which makes some weird creative play, but it looks like solver does do this sometimes. This is the most interesting point in the hand. Open, get free bet call, check call the flop, lead really small on the 9. The sizes are slightly off here in this solve because the raise size option it's given him is smaller than the raise size that he chose. He actually chose more of a 3x size, which would be like 10.5, but it's close enough. And you can see that in this case there is some like sporadic raising for like queen 10, jack 10 suited, and like some random king. It's kind of like all over the place. Like obviously a 9 wants to raise, but then these random ace 8 suited are raising, which is interesting. Some random bits of this, and then pocket aces, which we interact with, is raising. So in game, when I go for the small lead, he goes for the 3x raise, and this is where the hand gets a bit wacky, because I thought that all of his value on this board, the board is king 9-4, turn 9, flush draw. So his value, pocket kings doesn't need to raise, a 9 doesn't need to raise, although I guess it could. If he has 10-9 suited, shouldn't probably have 3. Or if he has ace-9, suited, it makes sense to raise. It's like strong. And doesn't interact with something like king x and draws and whatnot, but it's also so secure, and the stack to pot ratio is going to be such that he can still always jam the river. Pocket aces, same story. Ace king, same story. They're just really secure value hands. I thought it doesn't really make sense to throw off all my bluffs and condense my range to a range you're not actually playing as well against. It is kind of circular because he knows that I know that he knows that he can just pure value raise with aces and ace king, king queen, and all sorts of stuff. If my thoughts are that his raise is really weak, so you do have to be careful when you're applying this sort of stuff in game. But I thought that when he raises the turn, he's just really weighted towards weak hands, and if he has a weak hand, it's probably queen jack, queen 10, jack 10, maybe some other random bluff, maybe ace jack or ace 10 if he just thinks I don't want to call, but I think you're just up to no good, so I'm raising. I don't think it really makes sense to raise with a hand like 10s, jacks or queens, which you can see is what the solver agrees with here. Obviously not with quads. If he ever has these hands, it makes sense just to call. The price is so good as well. It looks like his ace queen wants to raise sometimes, but it is kind of, it's just randomness the way it's raising, except for aces. But to be honest, I didn't think he would always raise aces in game. There's only 3 combos left because I've got an ace, but it's possible. I could be wrong. He might be pure value raising aces and a lot of ace king. I'm not entirely sure, but he goes for the raise. You can see that my ace queen is just a pure fold, and it's losing money unless you have the ace queen of diamonds or ace queen of spades by the looks of it. This is where I say the hand went rogue. My reading game, right or wrong, was that his raise on the turn was going to be too bluff heavy, that he would raise with all of his bluffs and he wouldn't raise with the value enough. And I know that in solver world here it says that I should just pure fold, but I decided to go with my read. And sometimes you live by the sword, die by the sword. I run into, like, I could be continuing here against a range I'm dead against, which is all of his value, like the ace king, aces, 9x. I'm completely dead, but I went with the read and decided to call. And then on the river we got a jack. I don't remember which suit the jack was, unfortunately. It definitely wasn't the spade, so let's go with the jack of clubs. I decided that once I hit the jack, once the jack is the river, if he was bluffing with jack 10 or queen jack or ace jack, then he now gets there. So I don't really have the showdown anymore unless he has like the weird ace-8 suited, ace-X suited, or ace-10. But so many bluffs will just have got there. I figured if I have a 9, it makes sense for me to take this line and then have some donk jams on the river. But again, this is it's so rogue at this point. I just still thought he was weak on the turn, but now I don't win enough on the jack. I decided to go for the donk jam. In reality, it was more because his turn raise was smaller than it is in this solver example. It was more like 15 and 16 big blinds that I donk jammed on the river. I mean, ace queen doesn't exist here, but it seems to prefer going all in as well, interestingly enough. It makes a lot more with the all in, surprisingly. But obviously we can't exactly accept these ranges. He is now obviously supposed to call whenever he's got a king. He's supposed to call whenever he's got a 9. It's very easy. But then, and like queen 10 suited, obviously river straight, which would have been unfortunate if we ran into that. It looks like even his king 10 is a losing call on this river, which is pretty interesting. I guess on the other hand, it's really hard for me to find bluffs with this line when I check call, lead small, call the raise, and then donk jam the jack. That also went into my thinking of I should donk jam with this because I have literally the worst of all worst hands that I can show it with here. So I figured that it was the one. And you can see we get the snap folds if he has ace-8 suited, if he has the ace-10, if he has ace-queen himself, ace-jack is mixing, and then his jack-10 has to fold. To be honest, I just thought he would have more of these jack-10 suited and queen-jack suited, and I thought he might have more of the ace-jacks and ace-10s and maybe like randomness here. So I went with my read and got the snap fold this time, which is pretty fortunate. And he told me he had ace-5 suited, so he made a wide 3-bet pre, and then played it like it was ace-8 suited, which is actually pretty reasonable. And obviously I had to fold the river, so it is possible he was over bluffing with the line. It's possible he wasn't, and I got lucky that it went in such a way that I won. But yeah, I thought that was just pretty sick hand. There was so much going on the turn of he knows, I know, and like how are we ranging each other, and I just thought it was a pretty fun hand, and it went my way this time. First hand I got put in the bin, second hand I escaped the bin, so it neutralized, I'm sure. I hope you find this interesting. I'm using GTO Wizard here, which is pretty cool solver, and I was using Odin for the first hand, which are really nice tools. That is how to be put in the bin and how to escape the bin. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.